Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we will discuss one of the disease which is very common worldwide and diabetes mellitus, which is a disease of sugar, and it is sweet, but it is not worth it. If your body get more sugar, you have to lose your one leg. Every 30 seconds, a leg is amputated due to diabetes. My name is Salat Naz and belong to Department of Physiology, and today we will discuss in detail about diabetes mellitus, type 2 diabetes mellitus. But before we go in the detail of what happened during diabetes, I would like to explain the normal physiology of blood glucose regulation. If you see, this is the cycle how the food is supplied in the body, in the blood. After the intake of the food, intestine absorb glucose after a meal. Means this food contains a huge quantity of glucose. When this glucose is absorbed into your intestine, this glucose will enter in the blood, right? When this glucose enter into the blood, it will increase glucose level. As you can see, these blue dots are representing the amount of glucose. When this glucose enter in the blood, its value, its concentration increases in the blood. So in the body you have one organ which is known as pancreas. Pancreas respond to high glucose level by secreting insulin. Pancreas has a special type of cells that secrete insulin. So what happened when there is high level of glucose in the blood, when this blood passes through the pancreas, it is detected by the pancreas that this blood contain high amount of glucose. So the pancreas release a substance, a hormone which is known as insulin. So pancreas release insulin. So insulin when enter into the blood, and glucose is already present in the blood. So when this blood passes through the organs such as liver, skeletal muscle, other tissues of the body, eyes, brain, and I think brain do not need the insulin. In the brain, and glucose can enter directly in the nerve cells, but other parts of the body like kidney, liver, lungs, and all other parts require insulin so that glucose will enter into the cell. Now, why it is required that glucose should enter into the organ, not stay in the blood? Because if the glucose remain in the blood, it will damage the blood vessels, and if it come out of the blood, then it can damage your nerve cells or the cells of the whole body of all the organs. So it must be removed or maybe in the normal level in the blood. So the insulin which is released from the pancreas is serving a function of maintaining the normal glucose level in the blood. So what happened? This glucose needs to be entered into the organ where it will glucose combine with oxygen and produce a huge amount of energy, and that energy is responsible for all the activities of the body that we perform. And in this way, hemostasis is homeostasis, sorry, homeo means same. Homeostasis, a static condition, that is the normal glucose level will be maintained in the blood. This is a normal physiology, and if there is a low level of glucose in the body, then there will be a release of another hormone, glucagon, which causes the release of glucose from the storage areas where the glucose is stored, and then glucose will come into the blood and it will increase the level of glucose. So this is the normal physiology, how the blood glucose is regulated in your body. So basically what we see, if there is high glucose after eating, pancreas produce insulin. This insulin will enter into the insulin will help to enter the glucose into the cells. With the help of insulin, glucose enter into the cell and produce energy. As well as what the insulin do, insulin help the glucose to be converted into the glycogen. Basically, insulin not help in conversion of glucose to glycogen, but insulin help in the entry of glucose into the liver, and in the liver glucose is converted to glycogen. In this way the normal blood glucose level is maintained. Okay, but if there is low blood glucose concentration, that is, after exercise or fasting, your blood glucose will be decreased because the glucose is already utilized. In that case, what the pancreas do, pancreas produce another hormone which is glucagon, which work opposite to the insulin. So what happened, this glucagon will move into the liver and convert in the liver. This glucagon convert the glycogen into glucose, and now this glucose will again enter into the blood and the normal blood glucose level will be maintained. So what we learned, that if there is high glucose in the blood, pancreas produce insulin, and if there is low blood glucose in the blood, pancreas produce glucagon, and both of them work opposite direction. Insulin open the doors for glucose to enter the cells. Basically, insulin work like a key. Insulin act like a key. It open the door to the body cells. Insulin act like a key and it open the doors to the body cells and allow the glucose to enter. Without the insulin, glucose will not enter into the cell. If you see this receptor, this is the cell, this is a normal cell. Consider this is a skeletal muscle or the liver cell or the muscle cell or adipose cell, any cell. Consider it, this is a cell and it has a receptor for insulin. This is the receptor for insulin and this is the channel for glucose. But this glucose will not enter into this cell until and unless insulin ligand will attach to its receptor. In the second picture you can see insulin is the key that unlock the glucose channel. Insulin unlock the channel of the glucose and now the glucose channel open and glucose enter into the cell. So insulin work like a key that open the door for the glucose channels and glucose will enter into the cell, and it is very necessary that glucose should enter into the cell. Otherwise, if the glucose remain in the blood vessel, it will damage the blood vessels, it will damage the nerve cell, and it will create a lot of other problems if it remains in the blood. It can cause eye problems, it can cause kidney problems. All the body will be affected if the blood glucose level will remain high. So it is very necessary that insulin should be released from the pancreas and help in maintaining the normal blood glucose level. Do you know a person with diabetes has high glucose? Either because they are not producing enough insulin. For example, if the pancreas is not producing insulin because their cells are damaged, or because the body does not respond properly to the insulin. What does it mean? It means that a person diabetes is a condition in which there is high blood glucose. And what is the reason for the high blood glucose? There are two main reasons. First reason is that the pancreas in our body is not producing enough insulin, maybe because of any damage to the cells or because of any other reason. Whatever reason will be, insulin not producing enough amount, and of course so the glucose will remain high in the concentration in your blood. The other reason that diabetes could occur is because the body does not respond properly to the insulin. In this case, insulin is produced by the pancreas, but the body cells are not responding to the insulin because of there are several reasons, because of any receptor problem, because of some antibodies that are working against the receptors or whatever. But in both the cases, insulin is not working in the body properly, so that the glucose level will remain high, and this high concentration in the blood is known as hyperglycemia. And hyperglycemia has some levels. After a certain value, it will be called as diabetes mellitus. So diabetes is a condition in which you have high level of sugar in your blood. So we have already discussed this, that diabetes is a chronic disease which occur when pancreas does not produce enough insulin, or body produce enough insulin but unable to use it. If the pancreas does not produce at all insulin, in that condition is known as type 1 diabetes. So cells do not absorb glucose and there is high level of glucose hyperglycemia. In the type 2 diabetes, again the cells do not respond to insulin. Insulin is there but cells do not respond to insulin. In that case, the disease condition is known as type 2 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes occur in the children's. However, type 2 diabetes is mostly observed in the adults above 30 or 40 years. Sometimes it looks like diabetes is just a tip of the iceberg. Means if you see, this is the sea and there is the iceberg. This is the ice which is because of the very cold weather in Atlantic Ocean. This is the Atlantic Ocean, sorry, sea nahi, Atlantic Ocean, and you see this is the iceberg. So most of the part of the iceberg is underwater and only the small part you can see. Similarly, diabetes. And the diabetes is a very complicated disease and you can see only just the upper part of it. However, the lower part you cannot see. And the lower part, what happened? In the upper part, you see that there is high level of glucose in the blood. However, in the lower part, there is damage to the small blood vessels. There, it may cause blindness because it cause damage to the nerve cells or the blood vessels both. It can cause a stroke. It can cause heart diseases. Hyperglycemia cause kidney failure and difficulty in pregnancy, infections, nerve damage, deterioration of the large arteries. So, in short, we can see each and every part of the body is affected just because of the diabetes. The diabetic adults are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop heart diseases and stroke than non-diabetic patients. And in the diabetic patients, most of the time they don't know that they have the heart disease. They have silent myocardial infarctions, and they have silent heart attacks, and they have silent autonomic neuropathies. So this is like hidden diseases that occur due to the diabetes. Now, what are the risk factors? Means to whom have the more chances that they may develop diabetes? Risk factors are basically of two types: non-modifiable risk factors and modifiable risk factors. Means those factors that we cannot do anything, like age, family history, race, and ethnicity. Means this is in our family. We cannot change it with increasing age. So they are non-modifiable risk factor. However, there are more modifiable risk factors that we can control, like overweight and obesity. When we see that we are getting obese or overweight, we have to look our condition. We have to see, we have a proper checkup uh, for the pre-diabetes, and we have to take care of ourselves so that we can reduce our weight. And if we find out that we are getting high blood pressure or hypertension, uh, it is one of the risk factor. Physical inactivity. If we remain inactive whole the day, there are chances that we can catch this deadly disease. Sometimes we our body has abnormal lipid metabolism, means your body is not working properly, that there is no or improper metabolism of the lipid. So there is chances that there will be high cholesterol in your body, and whenever there is high cholesterol in your body, automatically the risk for the diabetes increase. Another thing that we cannot ignore is the pre-diabetes elevated glucose levels. And this is the most critical point that we can modify, but we don't think about it. This is pre-diabetes and elevated blood means our glucose level, our blood glucose level become high, but we have no awareness about this because it remain asymptomatic. We don't have any symptoms, we don't have any clues that we are pre-diabetic, and we don't modify our lifestyle. So in this all these are the factors that causes diabetes mellitus, and they are the risk factors. Now have a look of some points about the pathophysiology of type 2 diabetes. There may be two broad reasons of type 2 diabetes mellitus or adult type diabetes. First one is genetic predisposition, means you have inherited the genes or the disease from your parents, and obesity and lifestyle factors. All these, when combined together, or lead to insulin resistance. Before I go into next step, I want to let you know what is insulin resistance. Basically, insulin resistance is when cells and your muscles, fat and liver, they do not respond well to the insulin and cannot use glucose. This condition is known as insulin resistance. So obesity can cause insulin resistance. Some genetic problems, genetic defects, they can cause insulin resistance. When there is insulin resistance, then what will happen? Due to insulin resistance, there may be compensatory beta cell hyperplasia, means beta cell functions become changed. They become hyperactive so that they can control normal blood glucose level, and this condition is a normoglycemia. Means although there is insulin resistance, but due to the beta cell of the pancreas, they work more than normal and causes the normal glucose level in the blood. But if sometimes beta cell become failure because of the hyperactivity, sometimes beta cell become fail, or sometime attack of the viruses or the antibodies, foreign material, beta cells become fail. If this is the early stage beta failure, impaired glucose tolerance will occur. Means glucose tolerance is occur, but it is not up to the level that can cause diabetes. And then if the beta cell failure late stages, means the beta cell failure is high, it can cause the diabetes mellitus. The other reason is primary beta cell failure, but this is a very rare condition. Most of the time there is a genetic predisposition and obesity lifestyle factors that cause the insulin resistance. Due to insulin resistance, there are some compensatory mechanisms in the pancreas, in the beta cells. So initially, pancreas will try to normalize everything, but in the later stages, you can find impaired glucose tolerance and then diabetes mellitus. Symptoms. Although they are not only confined to the diabetes, but they are the most common symptoms of pre-diabetes and then diabetes. Increased thirst. If you feel that every time you feel thirsty, and then increased hunger, means after eating you feel hunger. Dry mouth, frequent urination, unexplained weight loss, means even though you are eating and feeling hungry, but you have losing your weight, but you cannot explain because you are eating normal. So the weight loss is one of the most common symptom. And then fatigue. You feel weak, tired, like sometimes confused or like that also. Blurred vision, headache, all these are the common symptoms. But the most common symptom that we observe in each and every one is the thirst, urination, frequent urination, and weight loss. So these are the clear-cut symptoms of diabetes mellitus. If you see the epidemiology, how much this deadly disease is affecting worldwide, we can have a look. This is the statistics from 2000, International Diabetes Federation. Sorry, it is a statistics from WHO, and according to WHO, 2017 there was 424.9 million people who have diabetes. They are positive for diabetes in the world, and it is expected that up to 2045, 628.6 million people will have diabetes mellitus. And this statistics of WHO is published in International Diabetes Atlas 8th edition in 2017. However, in 2019, this value has been raised about 5 to 6 million, 500 million, or 500 to 6 million. I don't have the current data because I have made this presentation previously, but anyways, 1 in the 11 adult, one person. If you have 11 people in a row, and if you check the diabetes, you screen for the diabetes mellitus, you find out that one person in every 11 adults have diabetes. So it is very common, and now it is considered as a global emergency because a lot of budget has been spending on our healthcare because of the diabetes, because diabetes not only one thing. Diabetes complications are too much, like blindness, like liver diseases, like kidney diseases, like neuropathic diseases, stroke, and blah 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 blah. So 1 in 2 adult with diabetes, if you see, 1 in 2 adults with diabetes is undiagnosed. Diabetes in the Middle East and North Africa. Basically, Middle East and North Africa is collectively known as MENA. Middle East and North Africa. Pakistan is one of the country that is also fall in the MENA region. So this statistics is from the MENA region. Here we see that the adult population with diabetes in 2015 was 387 million, and the expected value will be 635 million in 2040. Sorry. Adult population, total adult population was 387 million in MENA region, and the population will be increased up to 635 million in 2040. Among them, if we see regional prevalence of diabetes, and means the prevalence of diabetes in MENA region is 9.1%, means 35.4 million people, which is a huge amount. 35 million, and only in the MENA region have diabetes, and it is expected it may raise up to 72 million in the 2040. And the deaths in the 2015 due to diabetes was 34 30 it's a huge amount. And then let's go to diabetes in Middle East and North America, and their Middle East and North America collectively known as MENA region, and Pakistan is also fall in the MENA region. According to the statistics of International Diabetes Federation, adult population in 2015 in the MENA region is 387 million, and it is expected to raise up to 635 million, and the regional prevalence was 9.1%, which is equal to 35.4 million people. 35.4 million people have diabetes mellitus in 2014 in the people living in the MENA region, and 7.8% have impaired tolerance, and number of people with impaired glucose tolerance is 30.2 million. 30.2 million have impaired tolerance, means they are not diabetic, but they are pre-diabetic because they already develop tolerance impairment to the glucose. Tolerance means they are not responding to the insulin, that is why their blood glucose level are increased but still not reached to the diabetes. So impaired glucose tolerance is 30 million in 2015, which may increase up to 56.6 million in 2040. Effects on the quality of life, as I tell you that it is largest global health emergencies of the 21st century. Diabetes result in life-changing complications. Natural history of type 2 diabetes. Here we have to focus that what actually going on in the diabetes. First of all, we have a phase of pre-diabetes. If we consider 10 years before diabetes. Okay, this 0 indicate that now that diabetes is diagnosed in the patient. But basically diabetes has been occur in the body, disease has been developed in the body before the diagnosis, 5 years before the diagnosis, that is the onset is 5 years before the actual identification of diabetes. And you know, there is pre-diabetes starting 10 years before the diagnosis of diabetes. If you see, beta cell function started to decrease. Beta cell functions, you know, beta cell which is releasing insulin, their function started to diminish 10 years before the actual diagnosis of diabetes, and it keep decreasing. You know, this line shows that it keep decreasing. And then another factor is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance start again 10 years before the diabetes occur. Insulin secretion is diminished. Insulin secretion, sorry, insulin resistance is basically increased 10 years before, but insulin secretion is basically impaired almost 3 to 4 years before the diagnosis of diabetes. And postprandial glucose seems to be high almost 5 years before the diagnosis, because of course there is insulin resistance. Because of the insulin resistance, the sugar level in the blood will increase and postprandial glucose levels remain high. Fasting glucose level is not high until the proper diagnosis, means because the fasting glucose is not high, sometimes we thought that we are not diabetic, so but still a little bit fasting glucose level increases because of the insulin resistance, and it keep increasing, means that the glucose in just after eating of 2 hours and after 8 hours fasting, in both the condition the level of blood glucose keep high in your blood. So it can cause, and because of these reasons, because of the beta cell dysfunction, because of insulin resistance, postprandial glucose, fasting glucose, because of all these reasons, we observed that microvascular complications of the, see my arrow, the microvascular complications started almost 4 years before the diagnosis of diabetes. However, the macrovascular complications, the big complications like stroke, like heart attack, the ischemia, all these may occur 10 years before the actual diagnosis of the diabetes mellitus. So you can see The diabetes mellitus is so dangerous that it remained hidden for almost 10 years, and during this 10-year period, it already developed the sub complications like macrovascular complication, damaging your heart, damaging your brain, and big organs like kidney and other parts, and microvascular complications like neuropathies, like retinopathies, like nephropathies. So they are developed 5 years before the diabetes. So this is the natural history of type 2 diabetes. And the normal person always thinking that no, we are not diabetic because their fasting blood glucose is normal. So don't think like that, and take care when you are obese and you have symptoms of diabetes. This slide is also very important to understand level of prevention in type 2 diabetes. How to prevent diabetes and its complications. The first level is, for example, if someone knows that their mother or father or grandparents have diabetes, means they have genetic predisposition, they know it, right? But they are normal. When they are normal, what they have to do? At this stage, they have to try to prevent the diabetes from occurring in susceptible populations or individuals. What are susceptible populations? Of course, those whose parents have diabetes, those who are obese, those who have high blood pressure. So if you have all these things, you are susceptible for the diabetes. In that case, the primary prevention is that start some activities like eating healthy food, exercise, all these things, so that you can prevent impaired glucose. So the glucose level became normal, and this is fall under the primary prevention. Primary prevention means you do not allow your body to be diabetic. Now consider that you become diabetes. You are diagnosed with the diabetes, which is known as clinical diabetes. In that case, you have to do some secondary preventions, because primary preventions have not done. That is why you have developed type 2 diabetes. Now you have to do the secondary prevention, early diagnosis and effective control of diabetes in order to avoid or at least delay the progress of disease is the secondary prevention. Sometimes you have developed the complications because you are not taking care. You are diagnosed with the diabetes, but you are not taking care. You are eating unhealthy food, you have sedentary lifestyle, you are not active, you have high blood pressure, all these things, high cholesterol, and you are not taking care. In that case, complications start to develop. Now at that stage, what you have to do, because of the complications, the disability and death can occur. So because to in that stage, what you have to do, tertiary prevention is include measure taken to prevent the complications. First of all, what you have to, in primary prevention, you have to take care so that you will not have impaired glucose, right? The second thing is secondary prevention, in which you are diagnosed with the diabetes. In that case, you have to take care so that you can delay the progress of the disease, means the disease will not cause damage to the other parts. But still, if you have started some complication, in that case, what you have to do, try your best to prevent the complication and disabilities to the diabetes. Try to be active and reduce your cholesterol levels, and change your lifestyle and eating habits. Prevention of complications. All the major complications of diabetes can be prevented. Major complications of diabetes can be prevented by good control of blood glucose level, as well as good control of blood pressure and cholesterol level. So what you have to do, you have to take care of blood glucose, you have to take care of the blood pressure, and you have to take care of the cholesterol. All three are interlinked. Diabetic person require a high level of education, of the person with diabetes in managing their condition, as well as access to insulin, oral medications, and of course monitoring equipment, so that they will know that what is the status of their diabetes in the body. Diabetic person should be supported by a well educated health workforce, as well as health system that provide regular blood test and eye and foot examination. There is very chances that diabetic patient may become blind, and they have foot amputation, so that we have to cut down the foot because of the infection. Early detection and screening tools. Screening for the pre-diabetes with the risk factors and validated tools should be considered in asymptomatic adults, and fasting plasma glucose 2 hour post plasma glucose after 75 gram of oral glucose tolerance test will be performed. HbA1c, all these are equally appropriate for the pre-diabetes testing, not for diabetes. Okay, for the pre-diabetes, if you perform any of the tests, you will know you are pre-diabetic or not. Testing should begin at the age of 45 for all the people. Means if you are normal healthy, still you will start your test for diabetes. Consider asymptomatic adults of any age with BMI more than 25 kilogram per meter square, and who have one or more additional risk factors for diabetes. Means if someone is obese, okay, if someone is obese with another risk factors like cholesterol or high blood pressure. Consider overweight and obese children and adolescents, adolescents with 2 or more additional risk factors, and they all have to take care, and they are considered for the screening. The tests are normal. Repeat at a minimum of 3-year interval if someone is at risk. This chart will show you the values that can determine if the person has diabetes or pre-diabetes. So first, in the first column, you can see criteria for pre-diabetes. If the plasma fasting glucose is 100 to 125 milligram per deciliter, it is impaired fasting glucose. Fasting, it is pre-diabetes, means he or she has a chances that they will develop diabetes in a year or 6 months, because their fasting level is high. 2-hour plasma glucose is 140 to 199 milligram, and HbA1c is 5.7 to 6.4. What does it mean? It means that you can either perform fasting plasma glucose, or if you have the chance to measure 2-hour plasma glucose, or you have the possibility that you can do HbA1c. Whatever test, all three tests you can perform, and you can identify the pre-diabetes based on this value. Similarly, criteria for the diagnosis of diabetes is that the fasting plasma glucose should be more than 126, then it is considered as diabetes. 2-hour plasma glucose is more than 200 milligram per deciliter, and HbA1c, if it is more than 6.5, it is considered as diabetes. In addition to this classic diabetes symptoms, random plasma glucose more than 200 milligram per deciliter should be considered as a diabetes. And this is a summary chart, the basic, very basic treatment algorithm for the people with diabetes. Consider the first line. If we consider the first line, those who have HbA1c levels less than 7.0, but more than 6.5. In that case, what you have to follow, consider the first line, that metformin. You have to start with metformin, and if it is not working, you can have alternate choice of sulfonyl urea. And for the considering the second line, means if the complication is more, then you can have sulfonyl. You start with the sulfonyl urea, and if it is not working for you, then you can have a metformin or alpha glucosidase inhibitors. The third thing is third line, basal insulin. You have to start the basal insulin because the sugar level is very high, so you have to start with the basal insulin, premix insulin, and glucosidase inhibitor, and GLP-1 agonist. Any of them can be used. And consider for the fourth line, basal plus meal time insulin, means you have to take the insulin for the 2 times. if your diabetes at fourth level. And basal insulin, pre-mix insulin, lateral basal meal time, it can be alternative approach. But for the fourth line, you have to take the basal meal insulin, basal insulin or pre-mix insulin. So these are considered as the treatment algorithm for the people of diabetes. In addition to the treatments, diabetic patients should have to consider the lifestyle modification is very important. What they have to do? They have to reduce the meat and the sweet. They have to take very less meat and sweets, because due to the meat, there's a chances that it will increases the cholesterol level, and sweet as sweet, and but sometimes it is not sweet when we have to lose our organ from the body, so we have to take care. Now the poultry, means chicken, egg, cheese, yogurt, you can take it, but moderate portions, daily to weekly. Sometimes you don't need to take all these things simultaneously, but one thing you can take a day. Fish and the seafood often at least 2 times per week, means it is very important that your immune system will be strong, and for the fish and seafood give you very strong immune system. Daily serving: fruits, vegetables, bread, pasta, rice, grains, potatoes, olive oil, beans, legumes, seeds, herbs, and spices. And these must be in your daily diet, of course, because you have to eat at least something. But you have to be moderate in eating, not too much. Be physically active and enjoy meal with others. When you enjoy with others, you will feel happy, and you will have more energy from the food as compared to if you are eating alone. Thank you so much. This is all about the diabetes mellitus, and I hope you understand very well what is this disease and how it can damage you. So take care of yourself and take care of your loved ones so that they do not have diabetes. And if they have diabetes, take care so that they will not develop complications. And if still they have complications, try to reduce these complications by lifestyle modifications and proper treatment. Thank you so much.